Well, Cowboys Nation, when the 2019 NFL Draft finally gets underway in April, we will have to sit through 57 selections before the Dallas Cowboys are finally on the clock in the second round with the 58th overall draft pick. But what if I told you there was a way they could recoup a first-round draft pick? Would you be interested? Now, before we get started, let me make one thing clear: this is completely hypothetical. This isn't something I have heard floating around the rumor mill or something the Cowboys would even consider. It's just a little out-of-the-box thinking on my part involving a player currently on the roster who I believe could be expendable. You may have guessed it already, but the player who I think could help the Dallas Cowboys recoup a first-round draft pick in 2019 is right tackle La'el Collins. Before you get all worked up, I know we believe La'el Collins is worth a first-round draft pick by himself. But if the Cowboys were to package him with a future draft pick, probably a first-rounder in 2020, they could realistically trade up into the latter part of the first round this year. Dallas Cowboys owner and GM Jerry Jones: I don't know about you, but if there was a player still on the board the Cowboys liked in the back end of the first round this year, I would absolutely package Collins in the 2020 first-rounder to trade up. It seems like a lot to give up, but not if you actually look a little closer. The Cowboys would basically be exchanging years without a first-round pick and getting something right now for a player who doesn't seem to have a future with the organization. La'el Collins is after all entering a contract year and might net the Cowboys a mid-round compensatory pick in 2020. Dallas likes those comp picks, but there's no way they would be able to get a first-round talent with one next season. I don't know if this is something the Cowboys have discussed behind closed doors or not, but I definitely think it's in the realm of possibility. In fact, they may already have Collins' replacement at right tackle already on the roster in Connor Williams. He was after all an offensive tackle at the University of Texas, and was considered one of the best not that long ago. With the possibility of moving Connor Williams to RT, it would of course create a void at left guard. But again, the Cowboys have someone they could insert there as well: Xavier Su'a-Filo. He started 8 games for them at LG last year in 2018, and performed pretty well in those starts. The only thing left to do would be to find a trade partner. I think there would be several teams in the latter part of the first round who would be interested in acquiring La'el Collins if packaged with the Cowboys' first-round draft pick in 2020. That includes the Oakland Raiders, who just so happen to have 2 selections in that area, one of which, 27th overall, was originally the Dallas to begin with. Collins is just 25 years old and has the versatility to play guard or tackle. He is a proven starter and has held up well against some of the best pass rushers in the league. He may be the weak link on the Cowboys' offensive line, but he'd immediately be an upgrade for other teams around the league. What do you think? Would you use La'el Collins to trade up in the first round? 2019 NFL Draft: Dallas Cowboys first-round La'el Collins trade scenario. AP photo: David Zalabowski. The Cowboys, as expected, have opted to lay low during the early days of NFL free agency. Rather than paying premium prices for premium players, they'll look to improve their roster through cheaper options. Of course, one of the most effective ways to do so is to find talent throughout the NFL Draft. And one of the areas the Cowboys most need improving is at safety. Here are 3 safeties Dallas can likely find on day 2 of the 2019 NFL Draft who would help them fill whatever hole they'd like to at safety next season. Taylor Rapp, Washington Cowboys draft target. Washington safety Taylor Rapp. In the quest to find someone to play the safety opposite Xavier Woods, the Cowboys could look towards Washington's Taylor Rapp in the second round of the 2019 NFL Draft. Can play a mix of box safety and split safety in the NFL, at his best when coming downhill against the run. Rapp is one of the more polished tackling defensive backs in this draft class, and can be a good option to cover tight ends in man as well. Rapp's draft value will differ team to team, but he fits what the Cowboys could be looking for in a safety. Considering Woods' versatility, Taylor Rapp would complement him well in the Cowboys' secondary. Jonathan Abram, Mississippi State. If the Cowboys ultimately decide that Xavier Woods is best suited as free safety, Jonathan Abram could fit perfect beside him on this defense. Abram is a traditional strong safety that will instantly make Twitter viral highlight plays with his big hits. Abram can fit as both a box safety and nickel linebacker on the Cowboys' defense, allowing Woods to play as a single high safety and find a permanent home. Whether or not Abram will be available at 58 is up in the air, however, especially after testing faster than some expected at the NFL Combine. If he is there to be taken, though, the Cowboys need to think long and hard about pulling the trigger. Abram can immediately contribute, defending the run and covering tight ends in the middle of the field for the Cowboys. He also shows upside as a slot player in man coverage with the tools to grow in his cover skills. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Florida. While both Rapp and Abram would give Xavier Woods a more clearly defined role in the Cowboys' secondary, drafting Gardner-Johnson would add another versatile chess piece to their back end. Gardner-Johnson played all over the field at Florida, working as a nickel corner, single high deep safety, and in split zones. Gardner-Johnson can fit just about any defensive scheme, though I think his best fit is as a nickel linebacker at this point. With that being said, Gardner-Johnson did display the range at Florida to play in that single high role for the Cowboys if asked to do so. To get a better understanding of the wide receivers in the 2019 NFL Draft, I thought I would break them down by position so that we could get a better understanding of exactly which ones the Dallas Cowboys could be interested in. To accomplish this, I grouped these WRs into the positions I envision them playing in the NFL: X, Z, or slot receiver. I tried to be as honest as possible in my assessment of each wide receiver, but it's a little difficult to project their position in the NFL because it's not as clear-cut as other positions in the league. A lot of these WRs have the ability and versatility to play any one of the receiver positions, and will likely be asked to do so because it makes things more difficult for opposing defenses. Continue reading below to see how I have the 2019 WR draft class grouped by the position I believe they will play in the NFL. Hopefully this will give you a better understanding of the type of WR the Dallas Cowboys could possibly be targeting. X receiver. The X receiver, or split end, is more commonly known as a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. For the Dallas Cowboys, this player is unquestionably Amari Cooper. With him on board and more than likely fixing to receive a contract extension, it's highly unlikely the Cowboys are looking to draft this type of receiver. But we will take a look at them regardless. The X receiver more often than not lines up on the line of scrimmage and is the furthest away from the tight end, typically on the opposite side of the formation. Since they line up on the line of scrimmage, they aren't allowed to motion pre-snap, meaning they usually draw the opposing defense's best cornerback. A typical X in the NFL is a player gifted with size and strength, but speed and route running ability is starting to become more prominent as well. They have to have the ability to work the boundary and beat press coverage. Here are the WRs in the 2019 NFL Draft class who I believe to project as an X receiver in the NFL: Hakeem Butler D. K. Metcalf J. Jar Chaga Whiteside Kelvin Harmon Antoine Wesley Travis Fulgham Preston Williams Miles Boykin Jamal Custis. Z receiver. The Z receiver, or flanker, is more commonly known as an O. 2 wide receiver in the NFL. In a sense, the Z receiver is a hybrid of the X and slot WR. For the Cowboys, this player is Michael Gallup. Even with Gallup on the roster, I don't think it would keep the Cowboys from drafting another Z-type receiver. The Z receiver traditionally lines up on the same side of the field as the tight end. This receiver will be set back off the line of scrimmage in order to keep the tight end eligible to run passing routes, which also means they can be used in pre-snap motion. Because of this, they are required to run a more diverse route tree and work the middle of the field more often instead of the boundary like the X receiver. Since the Z position is kind of a hybrid between the slot and X, these receivers line up in multiple alignments and play a variety of roles. They need to be able to play on the outside and on the inside, which only adds to their value. It's that kind of diversity that could intrigue the Cowboys into drafting one of these Z receivers. Here are the WRs I project to be Z receivers in the NFL: Emmanuel Hall, David Sills, V. Terry McLaurin, DeMarcus Lodge, Tyre Brady, Darius Slayton, Gary Jennings Jr., Anthony Johnson. Primary Z receivers who could receive extra work in the slot: Deebo Samuel, Riley Ridley, Paris Campbell, Stanley Morgan Jr., Keyshawn Johnson, Cody Thompson. Slot and big slot receiver. I believe there are two different types of slot receivers in the NFL. The first kind is the traditional slot receiver. These are the kind of slot WRs like Cole Beasley has been with the Dallas Cowboys. They are generally the smaller, quicker receivers who win with their separation ability and route running. The second kind is the big slot. These kind of slot WRs are generally too fast for linebackers and too big for safeties to cover. This is an evolving position and players are starting to earn a more prominent role in the NFL. They're kind of a hybrid of a big wide receiver and a tight end. Think Juju Smith-Schuster with the Pittsburgh Steelers or Evan Engram with the New York Giants. Slot receivers generally have the advantage of getting a free release. They will work either side of the field and are constantly asked to go in motion. They rely on their change of direction and the ability to find open spaces in the defense. With the departure of Beasley and free agency, the Cowboys could be looking at one of these types of slot receivers. Here are the WRs I project to be slot receivers in the NFL: Marquise Brown, Mecole Hardman, Andy Isabella, Hunter Renfrow, Penny Hart, Ryan Davis, Greg Dortch, Deontay Johnson, Terry Godwin. 2. Here are the big slot receivers: J. Brown, N'Keal Harry, Dylan Mitchell, Jacoby Myers, Jalen Hurd, Anthony Ratliff Williams, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Keelan Doss, Alex Wesley. Having only one pick in the first 2 rounds, and none within the top 50, the Dallas Cowboys would be best served to just sit and pick during the 2019 NFL Draft. If anything, they should likely look to move back in the draft to acquire some more draft capital. Right? Well, this is an interesting off-season for the Dallas Cowboys. Not only is their head coach on a 1-year deal of sorts and coming off a season in which his seat reached the highest temperatures it's ever seen, but Stephen Jones has repeatedly preached the importance to take the next step. No more will it be accepted to just get to the postseason and lose in the divisional round. At least that's what they seem to be saying. So, it's fair to say it is time for the Cowboys to go all in on this championship window with their elite defensive players, for the most part, on team-friendly deals. All in after already dealing their 2019 first-round pick for wide receiver Amari Cooper. All in to take the next step. What better way to go all in than to add an elite defensive player to your roster? One who fits exactly what the defense needs in an interior pass rusher and run stuffer. An athletic 3 technique with Aaron Donald-like flashes on his college tape and elite traits which project greatness. That player, if you haven't yet guessed, is Houston defensive lineman Ed Oliver. Despite his elite traits and abilities, Ed Oliver is expected to fall in the draft and be taken in the 10 to 15 range. The most popular landing spot for Oliver according to mock drafts: the Atlanta Falcons, 14th overall. With their first-round pick next year and a package of some other selections in this year's draft, the Cowboys would likely have the ammo to move up to 12th or 13th overall to steal Oliver from the Falcons. The owners of those picks are the Green Bay Packers and Miami Dolphins, each in need of adding talent throughout their entire roster. The Packers, who select 12th overall, also have the 30th pick in the first round of the same draft. This could make it more palatable to move their 12th pick to Dallas, especially if they are getting an extra first next year and an extra second-rounder in 2019 as well. Let's be honest, this is all very unlikely to happen. the Cowboys are unlikely to move up. A team like the Dolphins, who are probably targeting a quarterback, are unlikely to move back. And did I mention the Cowboys never like to trade up? Ed Oliver is the type of player that will make you leverage your future drafts for, though. An off-season that contains re-signing DeMarcus Lawrence and trading up for Ed Oliver is a damn good off-season. And one that puts the Cowboys in a really nice spot to take the next step. A pass rush package with those two together on the field would be unbelievable to see. And while some have concerns about Ed Oliver's size holding up against the run in the NFL, his ability to play with leverage and penetrate gaps alleviate all my potential concerns. And after all, if you add Ed Oliver to his already talented defense, your first-round pick next year won't be in the top 20 anyway.